At 37,000 feet in the sky, one sound tore through the cabin like a knife. A baby's cry. Not a soft whimper. Not a tired fuss. It was sharp, endless. A scream that carried pain. The baby's name was Grace Cole. She was only 7 months old. Her small body shook with every breath. Her face was red, her fists tight. She had been crying for 3 hours without stopping. The passengers in first class shifted uncomfortably. Some put on headphones. Others groaned under their breath. But nothing drowned out Grace's screams. Her father, Dalton Cole, sat helpless. Billionaire. Genius. A man known for control and power. But tonight none of that mattered. His wealth could not silence his daughter. His mind, sharp enough to build companies, was blank in front of a crying baby. He rocked her. He patted her back. He whispered promises. Nothing worked. Beside him, his assistant Micah Reed leaned close. "Sir, the other passengers are complaining," he whispered. "We can't. Do you think I don't know that?" Dalton snapped. His eyes were bloodshot. His voice cracked. For the first time, Micah saw fear in the man who was never afraid. At the front of the cabin, the chief flight attendant, Selena Reeves, tried to keep calm. She walked gracefully, her smile fixed like glass. But her thoughts were loud. First class must remain calm, no matter what. She glanced back at the baby. She wanted to help, but her training had limits. A baby crying this long was no longer just fussiness. It was something more. And she wasn't the only one who noticed. In economy, far behind the curtain, a young woman sat with her head bowed. Kenya Parker. She clutched a letter in her hand. The paper was thin from being folded and unfolded too many times. It was her scholarship offer. Her one chance to study in London. Her one chance to escape the life that had kept her small. But she couldn't focus on the words anymore. Every cry from the baby pulled at her. Each sound told her a story. She knew those sounds too well. For 2 years, Kenya had worked in a children's center. She had cared for babies with sensory struggles. She had learned how to read their signals, how to calm them when no one else could. And long before that, she had learned from her own brother, Tommy. Nights of holding him when he couldn't breathe right. Nights of panic and fear. Nights where she had to figure out what doctors could not. She looked at her hands. She still wore her therapy gloves, the ones with gentle compression she used to calm restless children. She didn't just hear Grace's cries. She understood them. Beside her sat Mrs. Margaret Bennett, a retired pediatric nurse with silver hair and eyes that saw everything. She noticed Kenya's tense shoulders. She noticed how Kenya mouthed silent words with each cry. "You hear it, don't you?" the older woman whispered. Kenya nodded slowly. Her chest was tight. "She's not just tired. Something's wrong. Her father's holding her all wrong. If this goes on, she'll—" She cut herself off, fear rising in her throat. "You can help," Mrs. Bennett said. Her voice was steady. "I can see it in you." Kenya looked down at the letter again. London. Her future. Her chance. But her eyes burned with tears. She knew the truth. If she stepped forward now, she could lose everything. If she was wrong, she would be called a liar, a fraud, maybe even thrown off the plane. Her body trembled. Her heart pounded. But then Mrs. Bennett's hand closed over hers. "Sometimes," the old nurse said softly, "the right door is the one you're afraid to walk through." Kenya closed her eyes. Then she stood. The letter shook in her fist. Her knees were weak, but she walked down the aisle, step after step, until she reached the curtain. The barrier between economy and first class. The place she did not belong. Her hand hesitated. Then, with a breath, she pulled the curtain aside. Kenya stepped into first class. The air felt heavier here. Softer lights, wider seats, expensive perfumes. People who looked like they had never worried about a bill in their lives. All of them now stared at her. And in the middle of it all sat Dalton Cole. His face was pale. His shirt was wrinkled. His little girl screamed in his arms, her body stiff with distress. Selena, the flight attendant, blocked Kenya at once. Her smile was cold, her voice sharp. "Ma'am, This cabin is for first-class passengers only. Please return to your seat. Kenya's lips trembled, but she found her voice. I think I can help the baby. Selena's smile thinned. Our crew is trained to handle all passenger needs. But Grace's scream grew louder, rawer. A man in the back muttered angrily. Another covered his ears. Mrs. Bennet appeared behind Kenya, her silver hair catching the light. She knows what she's doing, she told Selena firmly. I've seen it. Dalton lifted his eyes. They locked on Kenya. His voice was hoarse, broken. You can stop this? Kenya swallowed hard. I can try. Dalton hesitated only a second. Then he nodded. Do it. Selena looked shocked. But Dalton Cole was not a man to argue with. Kenya moved closer. Her hands shook, but her eyes stayed on the baby. She spoke softly. Sir, hold her upright, against your chest. Like this. Dalton obeyed, awkward but desperate. Kenya gently pressed Grace's back with steady fingers. She tilted the baby slightly forward. The screams softened by the smallest degree. Good, Kenya whispered. She's fighting reflux. She needs pressure here. Dalton's eyes widened. How do you know this? I've seen it before, Kenya said. She didn't explain more. She didn't have time. Grace's cries were breaking apart into hiccups. Her body slowly relaxed. The cabin went silent. One by one, passengers leaned forward, watching the impossible happen. And then, at last, Grace stopped crying. The sound of silence felt unreal. Dalton stared down at his daughter, stunned. For hours, she had been a storm. Now she rested quietly against his chest. He lifted his eyes to Kenya. You just saved us. Applause erupted. Some passengers even cheered. Kenya stepped back, her face hot with nerves. She hadn't expected thanks. She only wanted the baby safe. But Dalton was still staring at her like she was a miracle he didn't understand. The calm didn't last. 30 minutes later, turbulence hit. The plane rattled. Drinks spilled. Passengers gasped. Grace woke and screamed again. This time, other babies joined her from the back rows. Their cries filled the cabin, echoing like thunder. Dalton tried to calm her the way Kenya showed him, but his hands shook with fear. His voice cracked. What if I can't do this? What if I fail her? Kenya touched his arm. Her voice was steady now. She doesn't need perfect. She needs you. Babies feel what we feel. If you panic, she panics. If you calm, she calms. Dalton's lips trembled. Her mother, she died. I promised I'd protect Grace. But his voice broke. Kenya looked at him, truly seeing him for the first time. Not as a billionaire. Not as a powerful man. But as a father terrified and alone. You're protecting her right now, she said softly. By not giving up. Dalton closed his eyes. He pressed Grace closer. He breathed slowly, in and out, matching her small chest. Kenya pulled out her phone. She opened her sign language app. Slowly, she signed the word safe. Then calm. Her hands moved gently before Grace's teary eyes. Something shifted. Grace's cries softened. Dalton rocked her, humming the lullaby from his smartwatch, the one his late wife had recorded. His voice cracked, but he kept singing. And then, miracle again, Grace rested her head. Her body stilled. Silence returned. This time, the cabin didn't just applaud. Some passengers wiped tears. Others whispered to each other. Phones flashed, capturing every second. But not everyone was happy. Selena pulled Kenya aside, her voice like venom. You've made a scene. You think saving a baby makes you a hero? You're not trained. You're nobody from the economy. Kenya's chest ached. For a moment, the old fear returned. Maybe Selena was right. Maybe she was nobody. But then Mrs. Bennet's voice rang out. Strong. Clear. I was a pediatric nurse for 40 years. I know what I just saw. That girl is the reason this baby is safe. Passengers nodded. One woman even stood. I filmed everything. If the airline tries to silence this, the world will see the truth. Selena froze. Her power crumbled in an instant. She stepped back, pale. Dalton placed a hand on Kenya's shoulder. His eyes shone with gratitude. You didn't just calm my daughter. You calmed me. I'll never forget this. When the plane landed in London, Kenya thought her part was done. She would slip away, back into her small life, her scholarship letter still folded in her bag. But Dalton stopped her at the gate. Grace was asleep in his arms, her tiny fist curled around his shirt. I don't want this to end here, Dalton said. His voice was steady now. You have a gift. Families like mine need someone like you. Let me help you finish your studies. Let me fund your dream. Kenya shook her head quickly. No, I don't want charity. It's not charity, Dalton said. It's a partnership. You saved my daughter. Let me help you save others. Mrs. Bennet smiled, her eyes soft. Child, doors are opening for you. Don't be afraid to walk through them. Kenya's throat tightened. For the first time, she felt seen. Not invisible. Not small. Seen. 6 months later, the world was different for all of them. Kenya stood in a London lab, a white coat on her shoulders. Her name tag read, Kenya Parker, Child Development Specialist. On her desk was Mrs. Bennet's old pen and journal, now filled with her own notes. Outside the window, Dalton pushed Grace's stroller through a park. The baby clapped her hands in delight. Dalton laughed with her, free from fear. Kenya looked out at them, her heart full. One flight, she whispered. One choice, and everything changed. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Hit the like button, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more powerful true life stories that inspire and change lives.